Hi everyone. Um, I'm so sorry about the mix-up I had today. When I put the advertising up, it must have just I pressed the wrong date, so it came up yesterday. Um, we'll just wait for a moment and see if we have anyone joining us. Okay. Okay. It looks like I may have done something wrong again, but never mind. We'll muddle on. Hopefully, I'll learn by the end of the year. I'll be great at this. Okay, today we're going to be talking about our invisible disabilities and why people get so passionate about our dogs. Um, Many people assume that a disability is something that you can see, that's obvious, but not everything is obvious. There are many, many disabilities that are invisible. So today we're diving into the challenge of living with an invisible disability and having an assistance dog. We'll talk about why people struggle to understand the impact this has on handlers and hopefully some practical strategies for dealing with challenges, both emotional and practical, when someone questions your right to an assistance dog. So, I often get because I often get asked who I'm training my dog for. And when I say, oh, he's mine, he's for me, um, and I'm not training him, he's qualified as such, people just look at me incredulously. They don't question that he's an assistance dog, they question whether I need him or not. Now, my diagnosis is multiple sclerosis. So, like most disabilities, it's on a spectrum. And even within that spectrum, every minute of every day can be different. I am blessed beyond belief, but there are days that I need my dog and that my legs don't work or that my back hurts and I need his support and need his emotional support. He does a lot more for me than people realise. Um, so, uh, why people struggle to understand invisible disabilities, I don't know this. Um, why they can't get their heads around it. So, one of the reasons could be that seeing is believing mindset, that people rely on visual cues. If I have my walking stick, I'm never questioned. I sometimes use a electric chair. I am never questioned then either. But they're very obvious things. Well, you're using a walking stick, you must be disabled. And the media often portrays disability as something obvious, just like I said, wheelchairs, crutches, etc. When someone looks fine, they assume we're fine. Um, Many people don't understand conditions like epilepsy or PTSD or chronic pain or autism and how those things can be disabling. I actually overheard someone once tell a young lady in her 20s, you're too young to have arthritis. She had juvenile arthritis, of course. And so people's perception of illness and disability is very shallow, I think, at times. Um, and there's also a myth that a disability must be severe to be valid. So if someone can stand or walk or talk, people assume they don't need help. If you do sometimes, why not all the time? Misunderstanding that. Um, they also have assumptions about assistance dogs. guide dogs are for blind people is the most common assumption. I myself was actually asked if I was blind by a man who watched me park my car and get out of the driver's seat. Um, Many don't understand medical alert, psychiatric, or mobility support dogs. Small dogs, non-traditional breeds, or handlers without obvious mobility issues face more skepticism. The impact of this skepticism on assistance dogs handlers is really deep. We have public confrontations, being stopped and questioned in shops, cafes, on public transport. Um, the mental and emotional toll, anxiety about going out, feeling like you constantly have to prove your disability, access challenges, businesses refusing entry because they don't believe the dog is necessary to you, feeling undermined, friends, family, or strangers say things like, but you don't look disabled. And sometimes I have said, well, I'll swap my MS for however you're feeling today. Also, we talked about this a couple of months ago. There's lots of trolling, and I know lots of people fear that trolling because it takes huge tolls, as I've spoken about. It takes huge psychological tolls on people. And hopefully I gave you some tips to help with that last time I talked about it. So, how are we going to handle challenges when someone questions our disabilities or our assistance dog? One thing we could do is by handling questions from strangers in public with quick exits. If someone asks, why do you have an assistance dog? You can say, they help me with a medical condition, no details required. You could say, that's personal, thank you for your understanding. You could say, if they persist, you could say, I don't discuss my medical history with strangers. For people that are persistent, you could possibly try redirection. They're working, so I need to focus on them. Or just walk away. You don't owe anyone any explanations at all. What about dealing with businesses or public access challenges? Know your rights. In Australia, assistance dogs are legally allowed in public spaces. State the law calmly but confident. Under the Disability Discrimination Act, my assistance dog is allowed in public areas. They are trained to assist me and I have a legal right to be here. Carry some documentation if needed, but don't feel obliged to show it. Some places will demand paperwork. You don't legally have to provide it, but having an ID card, vest, or laminated legal summary can help avoid conflict. For business owners who push back, you could say things like, would you ask someone in a wheelchair to prove they needed it? Or denying entry could be considered discrimination under the law. Would you like to check before we escalate this? I personally find if your dog looks the part, identifying vest, etc., you tend to get less pushback. I know in some states you don't have to have a vest, but to me it makes your life easier. So isn't it better just to do it? It just makes it easier if you present as a proper team. And I know, as I said, in some states you don't have to, but sometimes it's just not worth the argument. You're just better off to do it. Okay, how do we deal with our friends and family who don't get it? Maybe we could educate them with real life comparisons. Just because you can't see asthma doesn't mean someone doesn't need an inhaler. Or you don't see insulin working, but it doesn't mean diabetes isn't real. Relate it to something they understand. Glasses for poor eyesight. I mean, you can't see people's contacts, but if they don't have those contacts in, they still need their glasses. You could also set some boundaries. I don't need to justify my disability to you. Or I understand you don't get it, but I need you to respect it. If they're willing to learn, share some resources or invite them to see your dog invite them to see your dog working. Walking while he's working is very good too. I know we've spoken about online trolls and social media harassment, but here's another couple of tips. Just don't engage for people looking for a fight. If someone calls you a faker online, don't waste energy proving yourself. Block, report, move on. Your energy is better spent elsewhere. If you want to educate, a simple response: invisibility disabilities exist. I hope you can take the time to learn. Maybe drop a link to a reputable source, disability rights organisation or a medical page. We need to try and encourage a shift in public understanding. So talk about it more if you're comfortable. The more people hear about invisible disabilities, the more they'll understand. Excuse me, I just need a drink. Share experiences when you feel comfortable with people. You don't have any obligation to justify yourself, as I said. But if someone doesn't understand, they'll always judge, always. Fear is a big thing. And even though they might say, oh, I'm not afraid of you, fear that they may get that disability, fear that they may need that piece of equipment, that assistance dog one day, it can be very powerful for someone. Share experience when you're comfortable. I said that. Support disability advocacy and awareness campaigns if you can. Follow and amplify voices from the disabled community. Advocate for better accessibility in law enforcement. Encourage others just to believe without questioning. A simple mindset shift. If someone says they have a disability, believe them. It's their body. Teach children and the younger generation that disability isn't always invisible. You don't have to justify your disability or your assistance dog. Not all disabilities can be seen, but that doesn't make them any less real. If you face these challenges, you're not alone. Have you ever had someone question your need for an assistance dog or accommodations? How do you handle these situations? Share your experiences in the comments or send your stories in for future episodes. People's reaction to our dogs can be very visceral. On one hand, you have people that see you with this beautiful animal, not really understanding how it impacts your life, not really understanding the the gravity of your need for this wonderful being. You get people from I want to touch, I want to pick up, to you shouldn't be in this shop with a dog. You shouldn't be here. You know, what are you doing with that dog? There's nothing wrong with you. All of the horrible, vicious things that we've all probably heard at one time or another. I encourage you to educate people, not nasty people, because they're not going to learn. When someone's in that heightened state, they just won't learn. So I know this isn't a very long live today, but I hope I've given you some ideas and some reasons why people may not understand your disability or your need for an assistance dog. It doesn't matter what other people think. I think I've said this before. I read once, someone's opinion of me is none of my business. And I believe that, and it's made my life much happier. Because most of the time, when someone reacts negatively, it's more about them than it is about you. So, please see me again next month. It is the first Wednesday of every month. January was different because the first Wednesday of January was January the 1st. But from now on, the first Wednesday of every month, and hopefully next month I might have a nice guest for us to talk to. So please remember, we're all doing our bests, you and your dog. Thank you.